Me every once in a while. He does that to keep me on my toes over there, old Carlton. But we're live, Mark, and want to welcome everybody back. We're talking about, let's talk about Jesuit in the different. Um,
Yeah, in the Catholic Church, you have what you would call the kind of ordinary diocesan clergy, the priest that you would have at a parish church, and he's under the bishop, who's in charge of a particular area
Around the
called
hierarchy.
yes, the
Okay.
diocese, and then of course the bishop is appointed by the Pope. So there are kind of three tiers there in the Bishop of Rome, the diocesan bishop, which here we're in the Archdiocese of Mobile. There's an archbishop here, and the arch part just means that he's got a little bit of authority over some other bishops, and the bishop up in Birmingham and the two dioceses that are in Mississippi, and then the local parish priests for each church. However, there are also what we call religious orders, and everybody is probably knows about monks and so on, and the best known order of monks are various sorts of Benedictine monks from Saint Benedict, who wrote the rule and kind of established how that works. In the 12th century, orders that we call the mendicant, which means begging orders, that Dominicans and the Franciscans were established. They also would take vows. The mendicants take vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. And when you think of people like St. Francis, obviously was the founder of the Franciscans. He would go around, he would live on what people gave him, charity. Unlike the Benedictines, who would do things like farm, and they would own property, and they did not take a vow of poverty, although each monk would not own things himself. In general, the monasteries could own property, farmland, mills, whatever. I mean, you can buy fruit cakes to this day that are made by monks, and that's the industry that they do to help support themselves. In the 12th century, the mendicant orders would wander around preaching, evangelizing, and they would live on charity. In the 16th century, with the coming of the Protestant Reformation, the Society of Jesus was formed as a new mendicant order, and they're commonly called the Jesuits. They're founded by Ignatius Loyola, who had been a Spanish soldier, and it has certain kind of military sort of discipline about it. One of the things about the Jesuits is that you can almost guarantee is that if someone's a Jesuit, he's extremely intelligent. They're very well educated. Many Catholic schools are run by Jesuits, or have traditionally been run by Jesuits. They are basically a mendicant order similar to the Franciscans and Dominicans, where they take the vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. The Jesuits took 1/4 vow, and that was of special loyalty to the Pope. And for several centuries now, the Jesuits have been kind of the cream of the crop, so to speak, in terms of theology, but also in just ordinary science. In the 17th century, if you look at the various chemical, geological, physics, the advancements that were made, and look at the names of the scientists that did that, and probably in over half of the cases, they're going to be Jesuits. Now, in recent decades, unfortunately, many Jesuits have kind of forgotten about their 4th vow, and they're still very bright folks, but if somebody's smart and goes on the wrong path, they can be big trouble, and I'm presuming that Cardinal Bergoglio was not one of those, that he was a good Jesuit rather than a bad Jesuit.
Well,
but he's
Pope.
now he's Pope Francis, and so he's we hope that his brother Jesuits will pay attention to their fourth vow and be loyal to him.
There has been a lot of diversification in the Catholic Church over the years. And do you see that as a thing of good or something that needs, because you're talking like I'm very familiar with what you're talking about with the Jesuit situation and how, they went from over here and they went, a lot of them have gone over to the right, let's say. Do you see the diversification in the Catholic Church as a problem? The different
diversification by itself, no, because as I said, the word Catholic means universal, which
right.
means that it takes in everyone. And if you looked at the television pictures of the crowds in St. Peter's Square yesterday, you're going to see people from, all around the world were there. One of the cardinals that many people were speculating was going to be a compromise candidate was Peter Cardinal Turkson from Ghana. Cardinal Arinze from Nigeria, until he retired 2 years ago, was very, very influential. So there are, the church is diverse. If you it encompasses the whole world, but in terms of diverse political opinions and so on, you said going off to the right with the Jesuits. The problem has been going off to the left and mixing up socialist political agendas with theology, which is basically what liberation theology is, trying to create heaven on earth, and that's Jesus himself said, "The poor you have with you always," and that doesn't mean that we don't care for the poor and that they shouldn't be one of our foremost concerns, but I'd say it's somewhat heretical to think that we can create perfection on earth. Man is by nature sinful, and that's why we need to ask for forgiveness and go on and try to do better. But thinking that there's a political system that's going to lead to that perfection it's a heresy.
Well, that's one of the questions I had for you, with the new Pope being from Argentina and being how he was very outspoken. Do you think that now that the Pope is from Argentina, that it may weigh a little bit on the political diversity that's going on in Argentina?
It's hard to say. One of the I'd say one of the results of John Paul II, a Polish Pope, being elected was the fall of the Iron Curtain, mm-hmm. and that I would hope that having an Argentinian as the Pope would cause Argentina to cut back on some of the repression that the government is going on there now too. I have read, I had only heard Cardinal Bergoglio's name mentioned in passing and hadn't remarked on it at all until yesterday, and I've been reading quite a bit since then. Since that. But one of the things that I read is that there's not a politician in Argentina from either the left or the right that doesn't crave a blessing from him, that he's just by the force of his personality and the holiness of his life, that people recognize him and want his mm-hmm. support. So for him to be reprimanding the president, which he has done,
yep.
that she wants to do that. And one of the things that I've seen it mentioned that he speaks Spanish, obviously, and his father was of Italian descent, so they say that he speaks Italian pretty well. It sounded to me like he had a slight Spanish accent on his Italian when he was speaking yesterday, and that he's studied in Germany and supposedly speaks German fluently. I've not heard any mention of him speaking English, so that may be a big difference between Benedict the 16th and Francis, in that we're used to hearing Benedict speak in English. I mean, at his Wednesday audiences, for example, he gives has given the main address in Italian, but then gives a summary in French, and a summary in English, and a summary in German, and a summary in Spanish, and a summary in Portuguese.
I always thought they were showing off when they do it.
Well, anyways,
that's a big talent to have. Well, let me ask you this: we're talking about, he has the respect of all the factions in Argentina. I mean, I've read up on him a little bit now, and like you say, both. Well, actually, I think there's 3 entities in Argentina, if I recall. But all 3 of them, as you said, have asked for his blessings or have come to him, and you know, they believe in his humbleness and the way he is, and he's got their respect. And this, like you said, a pope was very effective in the fall of the Iron Curtain, and this could mean something, that now we have a pope that's from in America.
Right.
Okay, the first time ever.
Yeah, no, there's never been an
never
American.
Been one. Yeah, so you know, this is huge. I mean, this was. And do you think the Cardinals? I know you can't. You know, I'm just asking you. I guess just to ask, but do you think the Cardinals considered that as in their thing, or was it just the media that he's, you know, the first, you know, pope that we're going to elect outside of Italy and outside of Europe?
My guess is that it was his personality and his personal talents more than where he was from that came into the voting, although I'm sure it didn't hurt. There may have been some feelings that maybe it was time for another Italian pope also, after we've had a Pole and a German, but he's at least of Italian descent, so maybe that was there. But I will say that being elected on the first full day of the conclave, that's a fairly quick election. So
they usually go on for days.
Yeah, although they've been
like you
just
said,
several days.
That's word conclave.
I think that they went in at, you know, after lunch time on Tuesday, and then the evening of Wednesday, the vote, which the way that the rules are set up, they would have taken 1 vote on Tuesday evening, and then 2 votes the morning of Wednesday, and 2 votes the afternoon of Wednesday. And so he was the choice there fairly quickly.
I'd be curious, and I know this is something that we'll probably never know, but is there like a runner-up, and then they, you know, do an elimination, or?
They're not supposed to talk about that. In fact, the Apostolic Constitution that sets up the voting procedures provides for automatic excommunication of anybody that reveals anything of what goes on in the conclave, unless the Pope specifically gives him permission to talk about it. That being said, there are rumors that that Cardinal Bergoglio was the runner-up to Benedict the 16th in 2005. Although that, if true, and you know, anything like rumors like that, you have to take with a grain of salt. But the rumors also are that he was one of the greatest supporters of Cardinal Ratzinger, who became Benedict the 16th, but that some others, which you would probably call the more progressive types, actually started voting for Cardinal Bergoglio in 2005 as a way to block Cardinal Ratzinger being elected. And so it's kind of ironic there that Ratzinger's biggest supporter has now been elected as Pope Francis.
You got to pay attention to these things that are happening in the Catholic religion, and I know there's Catholics that are watching, and there's other folks that are watching today, and they're like, really? What's all this about? You know, we go to church on Sunday, and we praise God, and what's all this ritual stuff? And there's a big difference in Go ahead.
Well, there is, but if you read the Gospels objectively, I think that most people would admit that the references are Peter and the apostles. Peter does this. When Mary Magdalene comes and reports to the apostles that the tomb is empty, Peter and John run, and John is younger, so he gets there first. But he stops and defers to Peter. He lets Peter enter the tomb first. Peter was, first among the apostles. He is the one to whom Jesus in Matthew 16 says, he actually uses a play on words, because the word Peter means rock, and you sometimes see Cephas used for Peter, which is from the Aramaic word Kepha, which also means rock. He says, "You are Peter, rock, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. And to you I give the keys to the kingdom. What you loose on earth is loosed on heaven. What you bind on earth is bound in heaven." And that's the beginning of the papacy. Right there is with Peter as the head. If you look at early Christian writings, Peter first was located obviously in Jerusalem, but then went to Antioch in what's modern-day Syria. There's special emphasis put on Antioch, and then Peter later went to Rome, where he was crucified, although according to tradition he said that he was not worthy to die in the same manner as his Lord, and so he was crucified upside down. But then when he was martyred, then the Roman community came together and got a new bishop, and it was Linus, followed by Anacletus and Clement, and so on. That there's an unbroken chain of from the apostles going forward to Francis is now the 266th Pope.
Wow. Well, we're going to take another quick break, and then I want to focus on why he chose Francis, or what we think he chose Francis for, because there's a lot of media out there right now talking about, oh, it means this, oh, it means that. I'm going to ask somebody that might just happen to know sitting in this room, and get that out there and let our viewers know. But we're going to be back right after these messages from our sponsors. Thank you for tuning in. Mark, thank you for coming on. It's very enlightening to me. And it, he's, oh, people are going to get bored when I talk. Let me tell you what I did. Right in the middle, when the white smoke's coming out, that smoke stack, and the people are lining up in the square, I pick up the phone and I call Mark and I said, "Hey, congratulations, are you watching this?" "Yeah, of course I am." "Well, let me interrupt you just for a second." and that's when I got hold of you to come on today. And we appreciate that, and I know our viewers do as well. We'll be back with more right after these messages.
Keep it real.
Keep God in it. And thanks for tuning in. God bless you. We love you.